I was born on the 23rd of June 1962 to a country full of hypocrites, third-class politicians and Buddhist monks. My childhood was a misery. In fact, I never had a childhood. Shift in my focus as often as Russian weather, I was aimless. I had my very first sexual encounter with an old monk, 5 times my age, behind the giant Buddha statue in our village temple. I was only 13. Growing up amongst violence and abuse, I always wanted to leave my family. To study film at the New York Film Academy, to dine with Robin Williams, to go to a sex shop, and to ride in a tram to Castro. I tried zillion times, but failed. Frustrated to the very atom, I finally left for India. It was the greatest escape. India mesmerized me for numerous reasons. Indian music, vibrant colors, amazing rituals, street noise, freedom to express yourself, and above all, Gandhi. I liked his half-naked outlook, his courage to fight with mighty British Empire, and his round glasses. Following his appearance, I changed from blue jeans to cotton clothing, bought a pair of round glasses, and started walking faster.
Let us examine Gandhi absolutely frankly. He was a human being. He was not a god. He was not perfect. He was like all of us. And yet we know what he was able to do and how he continues to inspire people. So So let us have that same, that if Gandhi could do this, why not each one of us? Of course, he had the capacity not just to pursue a dream, but also to examine himself very sharply. He was very self-critical. He diagnosed the world around him, but he was not afraid also to diagnose himself.
Having become lost in that vast land with few thousand rupees left, I became a non-violent foot soldier, traveled miles and miles into rural India and spoke to many in broken Hindi, ate from wayside boutiques and joined long lines to buy coach class railway tickets. I climbed Himalayas and slept with naked sadhus. Of course, never missed the company of flower children. It was like going to the moon.
Gandhi taught us nothing new as far as the truth and non-violence is concerned. This is an age-old tradition right from the Vedic time. Buddha, Mahavir, and everybody teach the truth and non-violence. But the Gandhi's specialty is he applied this teaching in the social political work, not only for the spiritual advancement, but he tells us that even a national freedom struggle and reconstruction of a nation, truth and non-violence can be a very vital force or instrument for that. And that never taught by previous teachers. So therefore, Gandhi is very much relevant in the modern time.
In my long journey across India, I heard hundreds of stories, both mythical and realistic, fun-filled and frustrating, stories of urban fantasies and stories of marginalized and oppressed, stories of day-to-day struggle for existence. After so much of hearing, laughing and weeping, I realized these are stories worth recording. Stories they often sweep under the carpet. Stories that may hurt patriotic Indians. Stories that corporate India might not like to share with the world.
No, I think we must speak up because there might not be stories that are beautiful, that people like to listen to. These are difficult topics to talk about. And why are they difficult? It is because it hurts us to even talk about it. Then it is hurtful for them to live in that reality. And I believe that that is why we need to speak up about these stories that are often ignored.
This is Varanasi, one of the holiest places in India, where every Hindu wants to visit at least once in lifetime to have a dip in the river Ganges to wash away their sins. Though highly polluted, millions of devotees gather to pay homage to Mother Ganga and perform numerous rituals seeking blessings from the divine.
गजाननं भूतगणादिसेवितं कपित्थजम्बू फलसारभक्षितम् उमासुतं शोकविनाशकारणं नमामि विघ्नेश्वर पार्वतीपते।
The day I was in Varanasi, it was one of the most auspicious, Makara Sankranti, a rare lunar eclipse that falls once in hundreds of years. Nearly 500,000 people were there to take a dip in the river in that freezing winter weather. On either side of this holy stretch of the river Ganges, there lie two cremation grounds, Manikarnika and Harishchandra. Dead bodies are brought to this gloomy cemetery almost on hourly basis. Hindus believe that if their body is cremated here, their souls will unite with the divine and attain nirvana instantaneously. This smoke is thick and impossible to breathe. The smell of burning bodies makes one feel sick if you are a first-timer. Yet, I sail to Harishchandra Ghat, the not-so-busy cremation ground, to meet Gurudev Chaudhary.
आपका नाम क्या है?
गुरुदेव चौधरी।
अच्छा, कहाँ रहते हैं?
ये हरिचंद घाट पे।
और काम क्या करते हैं?
ये डेड बॉडी का,
क्या डेड बॉडी का?
लाश और जलवाते हैं।
अच्छा, और इसके अलावा और कोई काम है?
इसके अलावा और कौन काम है?
अच्छा, और
हम तो एक लोटा पानी।
I belong to one of the lowest of the lower castes. They call us untouchables. I started this job when I was 10 years old. It's almost 20 years now. There are 25 members in our community. We live an isolated life, away from the world. No one wants to live next door to ours. They even avoid our sight in the morning. I like my job, but this is not the best job on earth. What other option do I have anyway? At times, I feel humiliated because people do not even accept a glass of water from my hand. Once the bodies are burnt fully, we collect the remaining ashes and wash them in the river. We look for remains of gold, silver, or any type of jewelry for that matter. We earn about 400 to 500 rupees a day, sometimes even thousands. This is a family profession. We are born to this caste. Caste struggle in India dates back to thousands of years. In the world's biggest democracy, there are 160 to 200 million untouchables. Though illegal, caste-based discrimination and violence are daily occurrences in both cities and rural areas.
A girl who fell in love with a boy from a different caste, and the parents of this boy made this girl walk through a village stripped naked, and at the end actually killed her. And all that the village did was to just look on, let this atrocious thing take place, and perhaps even enjoy it, hoot at it. And then I'm also hearing the stories of a glorious India, the superpower where everything was fine. So for me it was a real contradiction. Where does this story, where does this fit in to this glorious future?
So when we really talk about the Indian dream, we have to talk in terms of our constitutional values. And when we are talking about India that is developing, we have to see whether the India that is developing is in accordance with the dream that our constitution has put forward before its citizens. You can see a big gap between the values in the constitution and what is really happening. So for example, if you look at the equality, our society is not equal. If you look at the value which is enshrined in our constitution, the value of justice, if you can even look at the figures of discrimination. You know, there is a practice called practice of manual scavenging, where one particular caste has to carry the human excreta on their head even today. So we have a long way to go. So where we are right now and where our constitution wants us to go, there is a huge distance. And people talk about India as a superpower is kind of a dream in itself. But a lot of people, the masses in India, live in the nightmares. So it's very contradictory. Most of the Indian people, like the Dalits, tribals, they have a nightmare. And for a few, it's a dream.
India's caste system renders 1 in 6 Indians impure. They are the untouchables. Gandhi referred to untouchables as Harijan, which means people of God. Politically active untouchables feel that this term Harijan might evoke pity rather than respect and prefer the term Dalits, which means oppressed.
He never stayed in poverty. He never lived in poverty. He was always provided for. So therefore, simplicity was a beautifully cultivated image. Definitely not equal as far as religions or classes were concerned. Otherwise, India would never have been divided on religious lines. And he let it happen. He worked for the downtrodden, so they say. He labeled them Harijans. It means people of God. But then today Harijan is used as a derogatory term. Why label them in a different class, in a different sort of demeaning group of people?
Now, how did this word originate at all? Gandhi had a newspaper. At that time it was, I think, Indian Opinion or Young India, something like that. There he asked for kind of suggestions. Because people, human beings, are classed as untouchables. This is a horrible sin to call a human being untouchable. It should not be. So I would like, because why do you make them untouchable? I create the dirt, he comes and cleans the dirt, and you call him untouchable. So no, they are, on the other hand, they should be worshipped. So is there anybody who can give me a good word? And one person who was himself an untouchable at that time, classified as untouchable, he made a suggestion. Oh Gandhi, wonderful. Nobody thinks of us. You are one who is thinking of us. So I suggest, why not Harijan? Gandhi danced at that time. Because what is the meaning of Harijan? We heard the song this morning, Vaishnava Janato Tene Kahiye. This means, who is a man of God?
Vaishnava Janato Tene Kahiye Je Peed Parai Jane Re.
The one who can share both happiness and grief with the whole people, and who can be at service at the minute of the call, and at the same time he doesn't have the smallest ego in his mind. He is the man of God. So Hari means God, Jan means people. So Harijan means God's people.
Vaishnava Janato Tene Kahiye.
What better name can you have for any person? I would very much like to be called a Harijan, because I want to be a man of God. So that is it. But then, again, interpretation, misinterpretation. So as such, there is absolutely no stigma attached to the word at all.
Maru Jeevan Maru Jeevan Ej Mari Vani Bijon Te To Jhakal Paan Maru Jeevan.
This is Jaggodami. She's a fruit seller at Varanasi main bazaar. Godami crosses the holy river Ganges every day and walks nearly 3 miles back and forth, rain or storm. She has got 2 sons and 3 daughters. Life was not at all rosy on the other side of the river. We struggle like hell. Finally, I changed my religion. I became a Catholic because they promised me a better life. Of course, they helped us with our house. But then appeared all troubles. Villagers felt jealous. A police officer emerged from nowhere and started claiming the ownership of our house. He even started beating my husband. Now he is paralyzed. All that is left for me is this hand-to-mouth job. Those were difficult days. I walked out of my house a Hindu with a red dot on my forehead. I wiped that out to enter the church and put it back before getting in the boat. I asked the church to help sort my land issue. They refused. I got angry and stopped going to the church. In any case, all I learned from them was this one prayer.
So the politics of conversion is entirely different. It's not conversion from Hindu religion to other religion. It's not like that because the caste is stronger. It's not, the Hinduism is not stronger. So because the caste is stronger, the lower caste people don't want to remain there. And why would they want to remain there? When they have no dignity, when they have no respect, when they are treated as less than humans. So it's not about the poverty. It is not about the economic development. It's about self-dignity. It's about self-respect. It is to be fully human.
In a journey towards the south, I ended up in a water-rich Plachimada in the state of Kerala. Tribal people in this village are engaged in a struggle with giant multinational Coca-Cola for the past decade, demanding compensation for the damage they have done. Coca-Cola came to India in 1993, looking for water and markets. They started as many as 22 bottling plants all over India, including one in water-rich Plachimada village. The site they picked was strategic, with two main water reservoirs and an irrigation canal few meters away. The site is also surrounded by colonies of Adivasis. Within 6 months of operation, villagers noticed the water level dropped sharply and some wells ran dry. Taste was awful and was not drinkable at all. Some people got dizzy after drinking from wells and some developed skin rashes. This is Mailamma. She resides right behind the factory side. One night, my elder son developed a stomach disorder. We took him to the nearest hospital. Doctors could not diagnose properly, gave some medicine and discharged him. But he passed away the next morning. Few days later, my grandson also died the same way. It is nothing but the poisonous water we drank. Not only our people, even our cattle died the same way. This is the common water well they used. But today, this water is of no use. They cannot use the water even for washing. If they drink from this well, they will develop skin rashes and other waterborne diseases. Nearly 1,000 families got severely affected due to this multinational crime. And today, villagers walk 3 to 4 miles to fetch clean water.
I certainly want India to succeed and India to be reconstructed. An India which is founded on the principles which are cherished by entire humanity, principles of equality, justice. But I do not know whether in the near future this kind of a wish is at all realizable, because we are moving in the wrong direction. For instance, the kind of policies which support market are being followed. These policies are resulting in certain sections, of course, gaining quite a lot, but certain marginalized sections becoming poorer, more destitute than they were before. So what is going to happen to the country if, for instance, even 1/3 or 1/4 or 1/5 of the total population is in a position which is completely unacceptable?
This is the Vanavasi Nagar village, nearly 120 kilometers off capital city Patna in the state of Bihar. It looked nothing but a desert without a drop of rain in many months. In this village, there are 126 families and 544 members all put together. They share one deep drinking water well. I asked them why.
हमारा नाम परवेश मांझी है सर। यहाँ 500 घर के आबादी में एक कुआं है। एक कुआं से यहाँ के सारी जनता जी रहा है। आज अगर कुआं यहाँ सूख जाए तो भूखा के भूखा सारा आदमी पानी बिना मर जाएगा। दूसरा समस्या यहाँ एक और है कि यहाँ स्कूल पास हो के भी स्कूल नहीं बन रहा। कलेक्टर के पास, बीडीओ के पास जहाँ भी हम लोग जाते हैं तो वहाँ बोलता है कि जंगल विभाग में स्कूल नहीं होगा। तो हम लोग क्या करें, इधर उधर से थक करके यहाँ बैठ जाते हैं लोग। फिर एकता परिषद वाले के जाके कहते हैं भाई, उन्हीं के साथ हम लोग रहते हैं तो उनसे कहते हैं तो वो कहता है नहीं, तो स्कूल तो यहीं बनना चाहिए और यहीं बनेगा। लेकिन फिर भी नहीं बन रहा। हम लोग का बच्चा है जो सही ढंग से शिक्षा नहीं लेने पा रहा। और अभी तो छाँ में शिक्षा ले रहा है, लेकिन जब बरसात आ जाती है तो शिक्षा यहाँ नहीं मिल पाता है। लेकिन यहाँ आज भी सरकार के कुछ भी ध्यान नहीं है। हम लोग डीएम, बीडीओ कहीं भी बहुत जगह गए, लेकिन आज तक कोई सुनवाई नहीं हुआ। बशर्ते हाथ लोग हम लोग मल के फिर बैठ गए इसी जगह। और क्या करें।
हम लोग अभी तक भटक रहे हैं। हम लोग का कब होगा सहारा कि अब भगवान जाने, आप लोग का ऐसे जाने।
The point we have to understand from Gandhi is that you have to embrace everybody as they are. And this is a social work. This cannot be a political work. And on that I must honestly admit that we have failed. If even in today, if in villages or in slums where you are seeing, if the children, if the people are being sort of discriminated just because they belong to their identity is of a Dalit or a tribal, then socially we have not been able to respond.
In a land where Buddha was born, gods and goddesses are worshipped even under trees, Gandhi is venerated and his teachings are framed on all walls, I ask myself, are all those teachings of non-violence relevant?
Ahimsa doesn't exist anymore, anywhere. We are the first people to get up. I mean, look at what happens when the smallest thing goes wrong. Somebody puts a garland of slippers on an Ambedkar statue, which is a direct insult to the entire community of the Dalits. First thing that happens is violence. Everybody's up with sticks in their hand, knives, there's mass sort of riots, people are burning, looting, hunting down people of specific castes and communities. And then the police has to step inside. And then there is a show of strength, and there are these marches, flag marches as they call them, show of strength. And where is this whole Satyagraha thing going? Where is Ahimsa? It's just not there.
In my quest in finding someone working on the field of active non-violence, I went to Bhopal to meet with P.V. Rajagopal and his Ekta Parishad Parivar.
इसलिए उस लड़ाई का नाम क्या रखा है? करो या जोर से कहो, करो या मरो. हाँ, नहीं तो मरो धीरे धीरे बोल रहा, कंफ्यूज ही हो. करो या मरो.
Rajaji, as he is popularly known, is a follower of Gandhian teachings, but with a very practical and modern approach.
My story is basically dealing with external violence to begin with, and through that learning that we need to address internal violence, structural violence, if you want permanent peace in the society.
His work with marginalized tribals is exemplary.
There are 17 ways, there are 17 methods that are used to deprive people from their land. And all these methods are very interesting methods. Right? It can be that the revenue officer who is dealing with the land records will one day come to your house and say, look, give me your record because I want to renew it. And he takes the record and tear it off and then throw it to the river, into the river, and you have no record to prove that you have land. So suddenly that land will belong to somebody else. So there are hundreds of methods that revenue officials and powerful people use in India to deprive people from their own land.
In 2007, he walked with 25,000 tribals covering 345 kilometers to the capital city Delhi to meet with rulers face to face. I traveled with Rajaji through jungles, dense forest and beautiful landscape. His dedication and affection towards these people reminded me of a bodhisattva in the making.
See, this is, in India we call it Padayatra. Padayatra is a highly spiritual action. See, it's like every step you make, you feel that you are making a change. So when hundreds of people start walking, imagine so many 100 feet together. So that is a great spiritual act because people are together, they share the same perception about the society, they sing the same song, they shout the same slogan. It's almost like mobilization of a spiritual power for change. So this Padayatra is basically about land, because we believe that land being very important. In India we call it Mother Earth, Dharti Mata. So how can a mother be separated from the child? So the child has certain rights over mother. Child is attached to mother. So every action that government is proposing is basically taking the child away from the mother. So this march is basically cross-checking what is happening in the field, how many people have got land, how many are still landless, and it's also a preparation for the next action. So by walking through this area, we will send this message that okay, 2012, 100,000 people are going to march to Delhi. Get ready. Every house should have a pot where they will deposit one handful of rice and 1 rupee every day as a preparation for the next action. They also need to go to different villages and mobilize people. So their responsibility to mobilize 100,000 people will be discussed throughout this march.
I hope they succeed. However, realistically, I do not know whether all these small groups working in many places, whether they would be able to bring about a fundamental change. The reason why I feel uncertain is essentially that our entire system, and which is very powerful, is geared towards telling everyone that the correct direction is precisely the direction that these people are fighting against.
So understanding the problem of people, preparing for the next large action at the national level, that is how this particular march is framed, focused.
Walking with this group through beautiful landscapes, no doubt, fill my heart with joy. But then, listening to their stories made me realize that we have to act fast to save lives of these already marginalized communities. So-called upper class and corporate India exploit them in every possible way. Stories they shared with Rajaji were unacceptable in the world's largest democracy.
जबरदस्ती करेंगे फिर खेत में रखेंगे इसके अल्लाह हम तुम्हें ये सिटिंग में पहुंचाएंगे जेल में तुम जिंदगी छूट के नहीं जाएगी क्या.
This is Jamuna Devi. She and her husband were asked to cultivate a land owned by another party. They worked hard day in and day out, watered the land, saved from animals and nurtured their dreams. But then, the day after they finished harvesting, a gang of powerful goons sent by the landowner took every rice grain away, leaving only tears in their eyes. This unruly behavior of upper class society and the government officials leave millions of these innocent tribals with one option.
So this indiscriminate use of resources like land, forest and water just for the pleasure of some people and leaving millions of our people out, forcing them to migrate to cities, become rickshaw pullers and laborers. So from a very dignified life in the village, as a farmer, as a forest dweller, to a very undignified life in the cities, in the slums. This is what we are challenging. So we are basically challenging the whole development paradigm and saying that this development paradigm will only create poverty in villages, push people out into the slums. So we don't want to be living in the slums, we want to be living in the villages as dignified people.
Listening to these stories of the most innocent and oppressed, I often question myself, are all these theories of non-violence relevant in this context? Who is there to share the blame? Or have I only met the wrong group yet?
I now have a straight question to those people who are working with these specific categories on the issue of Dalit identity, tribal identity, and all kinds of ethnic identities which are coming up. This is a world over problem. India has a major problem and we accept it. But I am just also asking a question to my friends, activists who are extremely committed people. I have no problem about their commitment. I have no questions about their commitment and concern and efforts that they are doing. But the only question I just want to ask to those people who are in this identity game is this: what is your vision? If you have the same vision as the mainstream, and let me take a concrete example. If Mayawati wants to win power today and become the Prime Minister of India, how is she different from a upper caste person? She is no different, because she virtually behaves the same way as any upper caste person who is till now behaving. She has a birthday bash when she goes to a beauty salon and gets herself trimmed and she wants to look beautiful like a princess. Why should she look like a princess if she thinks that her identity as a Dalit is more important? And why should she collect 7 crores? Why should she order around people that start collecting my birthday gifts? And what is she going to do when she gets into the power? When the Taj Mahal is getting dirty because of pollution, she takes a bribe and puts the pollution problem aside. How is she different from any upper caste? So my question to my friends who are working for different identities is this: you have a vision of a society? If your vision is same vision as which the mainstream has, whom you have been accusing of not looking after you and discriminating against you, you are going to do the same thing. So you are going to further perpetuate the discriminating society. So you are not going to form an integrative society.
I can go on relating stories, but will that be of any use? True enough, I listen to many beautiful stories too. Digital fantasies, glitter in Bollywood, same-sex romance, moon missions and many more. But then, more often, I followed the marginalized and oppressed, which most would comfortably sweep under their diamond-embossed carpets.
Are you hopeful? Oh, I am very hopeful. I am very hopeful because, see, I have understood the strength of the poor. Because all those areas which are generally seen as weakness are seen as strength from our side. So I think the power of the poor, that is how we articulate it. The poor people, if they are together, because they are divided by political parties and caste system, they're all divided. By doing padayatras like this, we are uniting the people. We are bringing out a hope in the minds of people that together we can change.
That fatal night of 2nd December, Union Carbide factory in the city centre of Bhopal had a gas leak. Activists claim that nearly 8,000 were killed and over 500,000 got injured. 25 years after the disaster, the case is still on and no one is ready to shoulder the responsibility. But the victims still hold meetings, rallies and peace walk to shake the sleeping tiger. Yet, not much have happened. I was probably the last to visit the disaster-struck site, carrying my camera, as they banned even still photography, days after, as the case elevated to a new height with a court decision. This is that deadly sight. A cemetery-like feeling ran across my body as soon as I stepped in. My brave-like visit to this deadly site itself can be fatal. Scientists revealed there are toxic gases still emanating from the soil and machines which can be harmful. Yet, I wanted to feel the agony of those dead and crying survivors. Most of them, now too old to fight, depend on activists. They staged protest marches almost on monthly basis for 25 years. Many governments came into power, but their destiny wasn't changed.
Now remember Gandhi's statement after independence. He asked Congress, disband yourself as a party. Go back to villages, become social workers. That is his priority. He said that the priority is social work. Priority is not political work. We have done. So let political process be taken up. I mean, one can say that this is a very revolutionary idea. We would have fell into some different kind of darkness. Nobody was more experienced than Congress, etc., etc. That's all a different matter and analysis. But Gandhi's concern was primarily that in order to have a society, an equitous society, working socially on social issues is more important than the political issues.
Among the untouchables or Dalits are this special sect called Mahadalits. They are referred to as Musahars. Musahar literally means rat eaters. I was shooting in Patna, capital of the state of Bihar, when I found my first rat eaters community. In God's own country, India, rat is an animal worshipped by many. For Lord Ganesh chose rat as his vehicle. Rat is sacred. Even there are temples dedicated to rats. But these Musahars eat rats, not that it is a delicacy, but as a means of survival. In this urban slum, conditions are appalling. Nearly 500 of them share only 5 tube wells. Toilets were built, but they prefer to sit in the open. Most of them affected with skin ailments. A lot suffer from tuberculosis. Side by side with people, there live animals. Pigs and humans share the same shelter, as small as 10 by 10. Mainstream society rejects them like a plague.
I remember visiting this slum in Delhi, which was a very shocking experience for me. People were living side by side with animals in very shocking, appalling conditions. And I remember talking to this girl and I asked her, why do you live like this? And I remember her telling me, 60 years after independence, not a single government has treated us like human beings. So it is only natural that we think and live like animals.
देश का सलाम देश का सलाम.
These phenomena is a part of the untouchability, which has the notion of pollution and purity that is informed by the religious scriptures, which says that some people are born impure and they are damned to do that kind of job, which means that they can't have access to education, which means that they can't have access to the control of powers. So when we talk about the Mushar communities, it is not just one community in isolation that we are discussing here. So the Mushahars, the rat eaters, is one particular case of how this particular psychology of treating people lower than the human beings. In this case, lower than the animals.
This is Ani. I met him during my travels in Bihar, days after his mother's untimely death. During the dry season, we travel many miles looking for work. It's not an easy task. Last time when I left home, the food situation was worst. My mother had only 3 or 4 kilos of rice at home. As a practice, we do not even beg from our relations because we all suffer the same plight. By the time I returned home after few days, she was no more. Villagers said she died of hunger. I felt so angry with this whole system. But then, what can we do? My mother is no more.
I've been interested in Gandhi for quite some time, and what I feel is, although Gandhi is greatly respected by many Indians, but as a thinker, Indians do not take cognizance of Gandhi. They don't read him. They worship him, but they don't read him.
And I am very hopeful that things are going to change. Things will have to change. Things cannot go on like this because it is creating more poverty, deprivation, migration, violence. This is not the way any country needs to be managed. So I am very hopeful that things can change.
Traveling with him and his group reminded me that active non-violence still has a space in these fast-growing digital societies. Everyone is talking of the end of the world in the year 2012. But I am hopeful. And I am looking forward to that crucial year. Not only to walk with those tribals, but also to write on my blog, Year 2012, the year of paradigm shift in consciousness.
Ah